The absolute worst phone call of your life isn't the one that awakens you in the dark of night. It is the one that arrives on an ordinary morning, cutting through the comfortable hum of a routine you took for granted. When my phone vibrated on the counter at precisely 7:42, I didn't know my world was about to fracture. I just saw the word mother flashing on the screen and felt a sudden, inexplicable chill. My mother, Clara, was a fiercely independent 82-year-old woman who had navigated life with a quiet, unbreakable dignity. She was the kind of person who refused to be a burden to anyone, surviving a decade of widowhood without ever asking for a single favor. So, when she spoke, and her voice sounded incredibly frail and distant, panic instantly seized my chest. She quietly mentioned a strange tightness in her chest and a numbness creeping down her left arm. I told her to unlock her front door and stay exactly where she was because I was coming right now. My own truck was trapped in an auto repair shop across town with a dead alternator, meaning my only option was my wife's silver crossover sitting in the driveway. I rushed up the stairs, the sound of the shower masking my frantic footsteps as I pounded on the bathroom door. When the water finally stopped, my wife, Brenda, stepped out into the steam, her expression blank and entirely unbothered. I quickly explained the emergency, telling her that Clara was experiencing chest pains and I needed the keys to her car immediately to reach the hospital. Brenda just stood there, adjusting her robe, and coldly suggested that I should just call an ambulance instead of taking her vehicle. She calmly explained that she had an important dinner planned with her friends tonight and a packed workday ahead, refusing to waste her afternoon sitting in a medical waiting room. The sheer callousness of her response hit me like a physical blow, leaving me momentarily speechless in the hallway. I reminded her that my mother was literally having a heart attack, but Brenda just looked at me with an expression of pure irritation. She looked at me and said that Clara was my mother, not hers, before telling me to just figure it out. Then she casually stepped back into the bedroom and closed the door, shutting me out without a single shred of empathy. Standing there in the quiet hallway, the illusion of my marriage completely shattered, and a cold clarity took over. I pulled out my phone and called Thomas, an old family friend and retired electrician who lived just a few houses down the street. The second he heard the urgency in my voice and learned about my mother's condition, he didn't ask a single question or make an excuse. He simply told me he would pull his car around to my driveway in less than 4 minutes. Thomas arrived exactly when he promised, and we flew through the morning traffic toward the emergency room with my mother resting in the back. Clara spent the entire drive softly, apologizing for causing trouble, her small hand trembling as I held it tightly in mine. As I looked out the window at the gray morning sky, I felt an overwhelming wave of gratitude for Thomas, contrasted with a bitter, freezing realization about the woman I had married. By the time the hospital staff settled Clara into a room for observation, the doctors confirmed she had suffered a mild cardiac event. I sat in that sterile waiting room for hours, staring at the floor while my phone remained completely silent, devoid of a single text from Brenda. Thomas stayed right there with me, refusing to leave my side, proving what real loyalty looked like while my wife was out enjoying her dinner. When I visited Clara's room later that afternoon, the color had thankfully returned to her face, and her sharp spirit was fully intact. She looked at me over her reading glasses, noting the absence of my wife without a hint of anger, only a profound, quiet sadness. I confessed that Brenda had chosen to go out with her friends instead of coming to the hospital, and my mother simply nodded, a silent decision forming behind her eyes. The next morning, I returned to the hospital to find my mother sitting upright in bed, holding a folded piece of paper with a phone number. She looked at me with absolute resolve and announced that she needed to call her longtime estate attorney, Mr. Vance, immediately. She explained that she had spent her entire life working hard to build something meaningful, and she wanted to ensure it only went to the people who actually showed up. I stood by her side as she dialed the attorney, listening to her calm, steady voice request an urgent meeting to completely restructure her will. She didn't shout, she didn't cry, and she didn't mention Brenda's name, but the finality in her tone changed our future forever. In that quiet hospital room, I realized that some bonds are forged in sacrifice, while others dissolve the moment things get difficult, and I was finally ready to let the broken ones go. Did a family emergency ever show you someone's true colors?